What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Johnny Mack here. Just wanted to give you a heads up that if you are looking for a community that is open to discussion as far as mentorship, conservation, the wild, becoming a better person, and all of that, there is a group for you on Facebook, and it is called Soul Seekers. Soul Seekers, we are all about making ourselves a better person. We're all about making sure hunting lasts for generations to come and encouraging people to get plugged in. Whether you are someone who has something to give or someone who needs to soak it up like a sponge, this is a community for you, and I strongly encourage you that if you're on Facebook to join Soul Seekers, and if you're not on Facebook, hop on there just for that group. It is only going to be as powerful as we all make it. And so just remember that life happens for you, it doesn't happen to you, and that you can't outgive good. You can't outgive good, people. I want you to understand that, and I want you to believe it, because when we believe that and we lead with courage and we lead with intention, lives are changed, lives are transformed, just like on this podcast, transformation through primal adventure. Be blessed. Enjoy this episode. Talk soon. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Soulful Hunter Podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Mack. Through this podcast, I'm on a mission to transform lives through primal adventure and to spread my mission of mentorship as conservation. This podcast is powered by Washington Backcountry, a resource for all hunters, both new and old. To find out more about Washington Backcountry, go to wabackcountry.com or search for Washington Backcountry on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. The Soulful Hunter Podcast is also proudly presented by T&K Hunting Gear. If you haven't heard about T&K, then it's about time you do. I've been using T&K gear out in the field and on hunts and have fallen in love with their stuff. T&K is veteran-owned and 100% made in America using only American-made products. All their gear is covered under a lifetime warranty with no questions asked. If it breaks or fails, they will fix it or replace it for free. T&K is your resource for bino harnesses, bow slings, and a lot more amazing gear. For more information about T&K hunting gear, go to tnkhunting.com or search for them on Facebook and Instagram. I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Freedom on and stay soulful. The Soulful Hunter Podcast is also proudly presented by the Crazyelk Company. Based out of the state of Washington with products made in America, they are providing solutions with gear to problems you didn't even know you had. Their tag wallet is one of those solutions, and I had the pleasure of using it on all of my hunts this last year, and it is now a mainstay in my kill kit. The tag wallet is a water-resistant zippered pouch that comes with its own reusable zip ties to safely and securely store your notch tag for quick and easy access. For more information, go to crazyelkcompany.com and use the code SOULFUL with a capital S to save 20% at checkout. Be blessed, everyone, and as always, stay soulful. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Soulful Hunter Podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Mack. Tonight, I am joined by a wonderful human and just a solid individual for the hunting community and one of our sponsors here at the Soulful Hunter. That is Ross Sharp of the Crazyelk Company. Ross, how you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm good. Thanks for having me on, Johnny. First, I want to say it's an honor to be here. Kind of humbled considering some of the guests that you've had on there, the big hitters you've had on there, Donnie Vincent and all those guys. So, yeah, I'm here. It's cool.
Hey, one of the, first off, I just want to say thank you for being here. You are just as much a part of this show as it is I am or any other guest. And at the end of the day, we're just a bunch of people that love to share what we love, and that is hunting. So I love it.
Right.
So Ross, all the listeners who have heard the advertisement for the crazy tag wallet or the tag wallet from the Crazyelk Company, first off, give the listeners a little history about who you are and how did the Crazyelk Company come about? What led you to like this moment in time when you're like, I got something to give back to the hunting community?
Right. Um, well, my wife says apparently I didn't have enough to do. So I created something to keep me more busier than I already had, working a full-time job and having two young kids. But um, I've always Like I've always been creative. I've always wanted to, do something other than just my normal job. Um, when I was younger, I tried to make it into country music, and then that didn't work out. And then, I used to be like all kinds of sports and all this stuff, and hunting and fishing, and it was just too much. And I had to simplify my life. And once I simplified my life, and I chose the outdoors and hunting as my primary, that's basically all I do. Um, I just started looking at things, what could get me outdoors more. And I tried to start a scouting company called Bones Research, and scouting for animals for people here in Washington that don't have time to do their own scouting. And I did that for like 4 years, and I did all right. But then with regulations of commercial businesses in the wilderness and stuff, um, I got some pushback from outfitters to where the LEOs were like, we're not going to give out any permits anymore. We're only giving permits to the people that have been grandfathered in. Um, and it just got to be too much of a hassle. And so I just kind of put that aside. And I don't know, I just kind of said, well, I'm just going to start hunting. And then I had an event in my life where I got stopped by a game warden, and he asked for me for my my tag. He wanted to show my see my tag, and so I gave it to him. And then I had to untape it and then retape it once I saw him, because I ran into him in the middle of the woods. And then I hiked back up to my truck, which was like 2 miles, and I get there and there's another game warden, and he asked me to see my tag, and I'm like, well, I just showed a guy down in the woods who was a game warden. So anyway, I had to go through the whole process of untaping my tag, show it to him. And by that time, the paper ripped because the tape got caught and all that stuff. I said, oh man, there's got to be an easier way. And so I just started working on some ideas, and there's been, I think I'm on like Tag Wallet 4.0, which I think is the final, you know, the final version. Um, and so I said, okay, well, I got this thing. What am I going to do with it? And, I went on some hunts and made some for some friends, and they're like, oh, this is a pretty cool idea, and I'm like, okay, well, got some good feedback. Maybe I should go some, farther. And I was talking to my wife, and I'm like, okay, so I have this idea. I should probably start a company if I'm going to sell it. What should I call it? And she's like, well, that's obvious. I mean, everywhere we go, people run into you. They know you as Ross Crazy Elk. So you might as well just call it Crazy Elk. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. So I went with the Crazyelk Company. I don't know why. Maybe I might change it to Crazy Elk someday, but yeah. So that's how Crazy Elk got started. And when I started it too, um, I didn't want to borrow money from anybody. I've been offered money from people. Obviously I could probably do things a lot quicker if I had that capital to roll. But I told myself going into this, I wanted to start a company that I didn't know anybody, anything, grow it on my own, not take money away from my family. And so it's kind of, a slow building process, and it's continually going uphill. So yeah, everything's pretty good so far.
I love it. You crack me up. I don't think I've ever known that you were known as Ross the Crazy Elk, the Crazy Elk guy.
Well, it's funny. So I'm not going to say the unit I live by, but I'm up there all the time, and my friends know I'm up there all the time. And one of my friends was backpacking back there, and he was up at such a lake, and he ran into this guy. And however the conversation went, my buddy's like, "Oh yeah, my buddy knows this place by the back of his hand, and he's a big time hunter." And the guy, because it started out with hunting forums, I was Ross Crazy Elk, right? And he goes, "My buddy Ross," and the guy goes, "Ross Crazy Elk? That's your buddy?" you know. And then my wife, she used to work at this Northwest Territorial Mint, which is no longer in business. But one of the lawyers there, when she put her pictures up of her family, one of the lawyers came up to her and says, "Is that Ross Crazy Elk?" And she's like, "Well, that's my husband." Yeah, he goes, "I know him. I see him on the forum. Anyway, so that's kind of how it went.
I think it's hilarious how people come up with their names for hunting forums or just really forums in general, and then how it also sticks with them in life. We with all of my hunting friends, my circle of people I hunt with, we all have nicknames, and you earn a nickname. It's never, you don't get to choose your own nickname. And so, for those of you who have seen any of our videos, my hunting partner Tony, his nickname's Two Shot, which
Right.
ends up being pretty self-explanatory. But hate to say that, awesome dude. And then we got Commander Clint, the legend Doug, and then Silent Will. You're going to learn about Silent Will on our upcoming season of Soul Seekers that's going to be launching June 1st on Carbon TV. Silent Will, it was his very first hunt and probably one of the toughest days of his life.
Right.
That we went into the Washington backcountry, and from that time he earned the name Iron Will, and so I really like it. I
Okay.
think the nicknames are hilarious. I think it's so much fun to when people start to know you
Right.
as your nickname before anything else. It's like, okay, it
Right.
I picked a good one,
Yeah.
or you were given a good one, or whatever it is.
And I just went with mine first, on huntingwashington.com. You needed to make some kind of name, and I was like, well, Ross is just kind of boring, and I'm like, well, I'm crazy about elk. I might as well just be called Crazy Elk, and so that's how that came up.
I love it. Ross, for the sake of people getting an understanding of what it's like to be someone who owns a business in the outdoor or hunting industry, what do you do for your day job? And then how much time do you find yourself spending on the Crazy Elk Company and all this other stuff? And how do you balance this ebb and flow of being a family man and taking care of your family first while at the same time having this passion and a responsibility to your family?
Well, I can say thank goodness, but not really, that I started my company or launched it 1 month before COVID hit. So it hasn't really been super super busy. I mean, it's been busy enough. So uh, yeah, I'm a merchant. I work at Costco. I've worked for Costco for 30. Well, this December will be 32 years. Um, I am the wine and liquor guy there, and then basically, I work 4 o'clock in the morning till 12:30. I come home. If I have any orders, I'll get home at like 1, and I'll box up all my orders, and then I'll take them over to the place and ship them. And then I have to go pick up my kids at 3 o'clock, and then basically from 3 o'clock till uh, my wife gets off work. She's working from home, obviously, with the COVID thing, but I try to keep them away from her, from bugging her, because even though she's working, they don't know that because she's sitting in the living room on a computer, right? So I try to keep them busy till she's done working, which sometimes is 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and then also, I got to cook dinner. So I put bones, like actually doing computer stuff, in between that 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock time slot, and then sometimes I'll sit in the bed and do some work after the kids are, asleep. Um, Especially I do a lot of the video editing and stuff for my YouTube channel when they're asleep. So
Yeah, and let's talk about that YouTube channel here because you're starting to put out some content which is a lot of fun and there's hunting content is so interesting. It it seems like there's a ton of stuff out there and yet it doesn't mean that there's a ton of good stuff. I love going through your videos. You have a story that goes behind a lot of it and that is where I find a lot of connection is connecting with more or less the character of the story
yeah,
and tying in and I feel like your stories have that whether it's your elk hunting story constant to the quest for three which we're going to get into here pretty soon and talk about what it is like to fill your slam here in the state of Washington and spring turkeys which congratulations by the way but you have
oh, thanks.
all these different videos and it's so cool to see. I get a kick out of people bringing a camera along and filming as they go because there's so much that when you come home being a father of three boys that
Right.
I want to be like guys you won't believe where I was you won't believe what I saw and words only describe or go so far with an attention span but the minute that you can sit your family down in front of a TV and be like, look at this. This is what I was doing. And they're like,
It's
wow.
funny. my start into the videography photo thing was, you know, I went on this yearly hunt with my high school buddies. You know, we've been hunting together for 30 years, which if you watch the constant video, um, you can see that. But it all started with, you know, I'd be going out in the woods and, you know, you come back to camp and you, hey, what'd you see? What was your report? And I would always say, oh, I saw, you know, I saw 10 elk and one bull and I saw this huge buck. And they're like, "Oh yeah, we saw a couple deer," you know. And after a couple years, it's like, "Oh yeah, Ross went out and saw everything." Blah blah blah. And I'm like, "What? You guys don't believe me? Fine." So I just started taking pictures of everything. Anything I saw, I just started taking pictures of it. We go back to camp. I said, "Here's the, you know, here's the huge 360 point, you know, bull that I did not see. Here's the, you know." And so it just kind of started from pictures, and then I'm like, "Hey, you know, I think I'm just going to start taking little videos." And I just started, you know, I used the, when I first started putting them together, I used that Windows movie maker, you know, that came on all the computers back in the day.
Yep.
And yeah, just started splicing. So, you know, some of my videos might have been like 45 minutes long because I didn't know how to edit. I just knew how to add the photo and the pictures, you know. And so yeah, it's a learning process. It's really fun. Sometimes it's really aggravating, but um, yeah. So I just started, you know, making videos, and um, you know, with my channel, I kind of have four legs. I'm working on. One is going to be like, you know, instructional stuff with like my products that are still going to be coming out. Um, and then one would be like just hunts of, you know, my hunts or my friends' hunts. And then the other leg is going to be like I have the two youth hunts on there right now. So I'm going to try to start filming some youth hunts, and then I'm working on another leg with older guys that I think is going to be pretty neat. I haven't launched that yet. I'm still working through all the, you know, nailing people down and sitting down and interviewing them and doing all that stuff. So yeah.
That's pretty cool. How do people find your YouTube channel?
You know, I was told to change it because apparently, you know, like when you normally go into, you know, the search engine, the processor or whatever, when you punch in crazy elk, it always tries to divide crazy and elk. So it comes up to something else. But it's just the Crazyelk Company, one word, you know, or crazy elk is one word. So the Crazyelk Company, and it should pop up.
I love it. One of my most favorite videos that's on on your YouTube channel is "What's in My Pack." And the very first time I saw this, the very first time I saw this, I was like, "Is this for real?" And then when you when you pulled out that telescope and that tripod, I was like, "No way."
You know, it is satire, obviously, but some people really didn't get it. And like I had people messaging me saying, "Hey, dude, we need to sit down and talk about your pack." Or like people who've actually been in the woods with me, they're like, "Hey, what happened to your Stone Glacier pack? Are you selling it? I'll buy it from you." I'm like, "Dude, what about the, you know, 5 foot space telescope? Did you not get that it was a joke?" You know what I mean? Um, and that came from actually last elk hunting camp. We were sitting around a fire, and I was just thinking of ideas. And you know, I like to consider myself as having a sense of humor. And I'm like, you know what? I always watch all the time now is these "what's in my pack" videos, and all these guys are going down to the, you know, the 0.02 ounce, you know, sleeping pad, and you know, trying to save all this weight. And I'm like, I should just do something. And I hope I don't tick off people because I'm pretty sure a lot of other people have a sense of humor. But I'm just going to do the total opposite and just make fun of it.
I'll
So
tell
that's
you.
what I do.
I'll tell you. So I have been guilty of watching those videos and being like, okay, I want to see what other people pack, because for me, before I got into hunting, I was a backpacker. I used to work at REI, used to sell backpacks, used to go on these long adventures where ounces mattered, and you got tired of certain things, so you might burn it in a fire if you don't want to carry it anymore, like whatever it was. And
Right.
so I've been very in tune as to what it is I'm putting in my pack. And so when you came out with that video, I sat down with like all serious intentness to watch and be like, I want to know what Ross puts in his pack. And you did it with such a straight face the entire time. I'm like, is this for real? I did-
So the guy who did the camera work was a friend from work. Um, he actually, I think he just got a job with one of the TV stations around here, but he's really good with the camera. And um, I did that in one take. And he's like, "You didn't crack a smile or anything." And I'm like, "Well, I, I was. This is what I was trying to do, and that's what I put my mind to it." And yeah, a lot of people thought I was dead serious. Like, I see friends and they're like, "How'd you do that? How many takes did it take you to do that?" I said, "Dude, I did it in one sitting."
If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, you got to go subscribe to this YouTube channel, Crazyelk Company, just for the "What's in My Pack" video because I was blown away. Truly, truly, I really enjoyed that, Ross. I thought that was a kick. By the
Thanks.
way, I want to follow up on something you said earlier. You said you were gonna, or you were working on being a country music artist,
Yeah. So
and that's not
here,
satire. This
here,
is for
here,
real.
here goes the. So I went to private schools my whole life, and so I was kind of forced to sing a lot of times. And it wasn't until like my sophomore, junior year in high school where we had at the beginning of the school year we had to go up to the choir instructor and we had to sing this thing. And he sat there and he's like, "Where the heck did this voice come from?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "You got a great voice." And so then from that point on, he always put me in all these leading, solos and all that stuff and showcased me, I guess. And, I really liked country music. So when I got older, um, I got the voice for it, but I don't have the writing ability for it. Let's just say that. Um, and at the time, Nashville Star came to town, and so I went down there and I did the auditions, and I made it past the first round, and I made it past the second round, and then it was the third round. I believe I didn't make it past that. So, but yeah, it was fun,
Do you play any
and
instruments to go along with it?
I dabble. It would that would be opposite of the what's in your pack video. It would be like I would play like one chord and I'd have to stop, and then that'd be like 100 things put down to make one song. Um, but I put out a little demo CD that's actually on YouTube too, which I probably should delete that because it's kind of embarrassing. But that's not on the Crazy Elk channel. That's on a whole different thing. But
That's hidden.
right, and so this whole time, I've sang at probably I don't know 50 weddings, maybe all over the country, um, and yeah. So I love to sing. I still do.
What's your
I have
inspiration? Who do you like to listen to, or who do you like to say you draw your inspiration from when it comes to singing? You like a classic country like George Strait, or are you more of that
I
bluegrass?
do like George Strait. I do like. I mean, Johnny Cash. I do like the new Jamie Johnson stuff. Um, who my style was after, I can't really say it was after anybody because I failed miserably at it. Um, but yeah, I mean, I really like the older country. I'm not really a modern country type of guy.
Yeah, we gotta get you and Tony Wintrip together. Do you know Tony?
Oh yeah, I know. I mean, I haven't met him, but I know who he
I
is.
mean,
Yeah.
talk about Instagram handle, the Elk Singer, and then you got Ross the Crazy Elk. You guys could you guys could come up with quite the duet. Just really
I
lay
uh,
it down.
I look forward to meeting him someday, but I haven't done it yet. Yeah.
Man, that's so cool. So where did this desire for elk come? What was it that was like, okay, I want to be an elk hunter. I want to, well, I, I'm Ross Crazy Elk. Where does the crazy elk come from?
Um. Well, I grew up Well, I started hunting when I was 12. I was always in the woods with my uncle before that. Um, but I think the thing that really made elk my passion, and I'm always thinking about it, is I actually wasn't even on a hunting trip. I was just backpacking, and it was in September, and it actually was dark out, and I couldn't sleep because the elk were just going nuts, right? And I was probably 19 or 20 at that time, and I've hunted with my I just tagged along with my buddy who was an archery hunter, but at the time we went, they didn't really bugle that much and didn't really, I guess we weren't good hunters then, so we didn't really know where they were. But as I started diving deeper in it, I just like, man, I got to hear that again, but I don't want to hear it at night. I want to go find them during the day and see if I can find them. And then I literally one time, upon accident, just had a bull basically walk right up to me from 5 feet away and let out a bugle, and that was it. I was hooked from
Wow.
that point on.
I'll tell you, hearing a bull bugle in the woods is something that if more people heard it, they would want to experience it a whole lot more.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. I mean, my kids, we're at home and I try to get them in the woods, but they can't get close enough. Like we hear them up in the hills, but until you can get close enough to feel it, like your chest shake when that, the ground shake when that bugle goes off. It's a whole different game.
Oh, that's so cool. So I've experienced it one time, like in my face, and I was like, wow, this is incredible. Now, switching gears here because I went on my very first turkey hunt, and everyone's always like, turkey hunting is exactly like elk. The minute that you hear a gobble and you see a tom come in, like you'll be hooked. And well, I'm still waiting for that opportunity to arise. However, you, my man, had quite the feat, and you filled your Washington Turkey Slam this year in spring 2021. You,
Yep.
you what? A Rio, an Eastern, and a Merriam's.
Yep. Yep. I
Congratulations!
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's kind of surreal. I've been turkey hunting for a while. I got introduced to it from a coworker, and then after that, I just kind of really liked doing it and brought my other friends with me, and so it's kind of a yearly thing. And so we hunted turkeys. Just we'd get one or we'd get none. And then after a while, I met a guy named Quincy Atchley through another friend who he's gotten the slam a few times, like back in the 90s, I believe, or early 2000s. And that's the first time I ever heard of the slam. I didn't even know there was such a thing. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, but I just have fun, turkey hunting with my friends, go to Eastern Washington and shoot my one or two turkeys if I can get one. And then about 7 or 8 years ago, I just kind of, I don't know, I had like this thing to challenge myself, I guess. So I was like, I think I'm going to try to go for this turkey slam. And so I knew the Eastern was the hardest one to get. And so I just started, reaching out to people, but the people that really know where the Easterns are don't talk much. Um, and so you got to do a lot of homework. And for 6 years, I hiked hundreds of miles, rode my bike thousands of miles, hours, days, and never once heard a gobble or seen a turkey.
Hmm.
But I knew they were there. I mean, because I know, you read your yearly thing saying who got the slam, and I'm like, where are these people finding these turkeys at? And I reached out to a couple people, and some of them would kind of give you areas, but not really, any specifics type stuff. And so I just kind of do pick an area, go check it out. If I didn't see any sign, cross it off the map, go to the next place. And then I heard about this other place that had a pretty good turkey population. And sure enough, I went in there and I saw my very first hen this last November. And I'm like, oh, they aren't a myth. They really are, they really are on this side of the mountains. And so from that point on, I just made it a point to, yeah, I'm going to make this happen. And um, through actually turkey hunting and my quest for knowledge, I met Travis Arnott through kind of weird circumstances through Youth Outdoors Unlimited. Um, Him and I have a mutual buddy, and anyway, we started talking through that. And Travis is a wealth of turkey knowledge. and I've learned more in a year about turkeys from that guy than I did my whole life. And so we just kind of put together a plan, and I wasn't expecting it because he's busy and he's helping a lot of people. And come this year, I said, hey, I'm going to go into this part of the woods on opening day. I said, I don't know if you have the day off. And he's like, well, I'm probably taking the day off. I don't know if I have the day off, but I'm going to be out there anyway. So we ended up taking, going together, and went out there, and yeah, opening day, first 15 minutes, we hear a gobble in the dark. We get down there, 15 minutes later, done deal. I was like, wow, this is crazy. And, first 15 minutes, I haven't ever seen a gobbler on this side of the mountains in my life. And all of a sudden, here's one coming right at me. I ended up shooting him at like 21 yards, which that video is on my YouTube channel, for the Quest for Three. And then, uh, so that was, really one day. We worked the rest of the day to try to find Travis a bird, but we couldn't find him a bird. And then I went home and I worked for a week. And then the next weekend, I took my daughter and my friend and his son. We went over to go look for some turkeys, which we didn't see any. But that's how it goes sometimes. And we didn't hunt all day because the morning was cold for my daughter, and I don't want to push her into hunting. I don't want her, not like hunting. So, we were out there for maybe 4 hours. And then after that, I have a friend who lives on the east side, and he has a daughter a little bit older than my daughter. So I let them go hang out and play, and, took her into the restaurant, had waffles with strawberries and whipped cream and, all that stuff. And then, so I didn't go again until, oh no, I had a planned trip with Kurt and Travis on the east side in the areas that Rios are. And that was the hardest of all the three hunts. Actually, it took 2.5 days. Um, we had heard birds every morning, sometimes in the afternoon, but they just would not come in. They were, I had one 40 minutes. He was less than 40 yards away from me, but he had to come up over this lip. But he kept calling for me to go to him. And then it turned out I could hear a hen with him, and that's why he wasn't coming. Um, so finally, so like the second day in the afternoon, I just said, I'm just going to go to this blind that I saw over there, and I'm just going to sit there and not say a single thing. I'm just going to sit there all day till it gets dark. I said they're used to that thing being there. And I'm just going to take advantage of their security and just sit there. And well, that worked for about 2 hours. Then I got really bored. So then I just
I
so
was
I
gonna say, man, sitting there turkey hunting. I don't think. I mean, I hate to say I was bored hunting because I love it, but I'm
right.
like, dude, I got to get some action. This is killing
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. It was. I fell asleep, sitting in that stand. But finally, after 2 hours, I said, okay, I'm not going to be like really crazy calling. I'm just going to let out like one series of calls, and then I'm going to shut up. And so I did that, and then all of a sudden, like 20 minutes later, here came a hen from down the canyon. I'm like, huh. So I kind of let her pass, and she disappeared. And so then I did the same thing, same call, exactly the same again. And next thing you know, here come three hens. Anyway, after like 3 hours of that, I had seven hens come past me just with that one simple one-time call. And then I want to say it was like 6 o'clock or so. I caught some movement, but it was going away from me, and I got my binoculars up, and I couldn't tell what it was. But then, so I grabbed my pot call, and I just made a really soft, because it was close. I just made a really soft purr, and all of a sudden, I saw this red head pop up, and then start coming at me. And then right behind him was two more red heads. And it's too bad that Kurt and Travis weren't with me because we could have had a triple right there. But yeah, I let them walk up, and yeah, shot him at like 25, 30 yards or something. So that
Awesome.
was that. And then, so I went home, went back to work for a week. And then the next weekend from my buddy's place. And he owns 20 acres surrounded by a bunch of state land and one piece of private. And that night we roosted some birds. The next morning we went back there. We thought he was alone, but in the morning turned out he had hens all over. And I ended up calling the hens right to me. They basically flew right to the field I was sitting in, and the tom went the other way. And I was like, "Oh man, what? You know, why are you going the other way?" But then an hour later, I could hear him, because he was calling on his own. I could just hear him, kind of doing a huge circle. And then it turned out about after an hour, he was up on the hill above us. And so I just let out a big, on my box call, just made it as loud as I could, just a big yelp. And then all of a sudden, not even 10 seconds later, I caught movement of him landing from the hill. And then, yeah, he just came right in. He saw the decoy. He started puffing up and doing his thing. And I should have been a better cameraman. Um, but it's when a turkey's right there, you can't really zoom in because you can't really move. So I had the camera just doing its thing, and I let him puff up like 3 or 4 times, and then I couldn't take it anymore because I'm like, this is it. This is the slam. I got to take the shot. So after 7 years, and the Eastern is obviously, if anybody knows, is the hardest one. So, but yeah, 7 years, 6 years, not even seen an Eastern, and it all happened in matter of hunting days. It was 3 birds in 5 days.
Wow. Five days of hunting, and you nailed them all over the state of Washington. That is impressive. Impressive. So do you think you're going to chase the slam again?
That's what Travis asked me, and yeah, probably. I don't know. I feel kind of bad. Like, besides hunting with Travis and Kurt, I haven't really hunted with my friends this year, really, and I missed that. So I'll probably have it in the back of my mind, but I'm gonna go have fun with my friends, and then, like, if I get my Merriam, or because we normally go to an area where Merriams are, if I get my Merriam, it'll probably ramp things up for me to try to go, get the Rio, and then use the whole month of May to try to get the Eastern. So we'll see.
Yeah,
Yeah,
go a little
I'm
reverse order.
probably going to aim for it again.
I
I'm
love
looking
it.
at I'm looking at all the turkey fans I have sitting here now with the borax waiting to dry. So yeah, I'll probably do it again,
So
or try
cool.
anyway.
So cool. I love it. I am going to be going back out at the end of May, Memorial Weekend, with Travis because, well, see if the magic can continue. Travis, you and him had some fun together, and he was a beautiful guest on our podcast and shared a wealth of knowledge, not only through the episode that we did about turkey hunting, but also the article he wrote for the website. And so I asked him, I was like, "Hey, Travis, would you be okay calling for us and just coming along
Right.
and calling?" And that's a big ask to do for somebody, but Travis was such a gentleman, and he's like, I'd be honored and really
Oh,
looking
dude,
forward to it.
he's very generous. He's a really nice guy. Like, that opening day Eastern, you know, um, we didn't go where I thought we were going to go. He ended up taking me to another place that I'm not allowed to talk about. Um, and realistically, that Eastern, if I wasn't with him, should have been his. And he hasn't gotten his Eastern yet. He was close again this weekend, but so I mean, he's a great guy. He'll give you the shirt off his back. Um, I'm happy that I was there to be able to take the Eastern, but in the same time, I also feel guilty because that could have been his bird.
Yeah.
But it is what it is, and I thank him and thank God for that. And
Well, we always talk
so,
about on this podcast, you can't outgive good. All
yeah,
things come around. It may not be this weekend or next weekend or this month or this season.
right,
Things will come around. It all works out the way it's supposed to. There are no coincidences.
yeah,
And that is the beauty of it. And that's where, mentorship is conservation. You give out of the kindness of your own heart, not in expecting anything in return. You just do it because you care so much about the sport and you care so much about people finding passion and a love for it that
right,
be that gentle breeze blowing on that ember, and all of a sudden, poof, you
right.
spark a fire, and that fire is hard to put out.
You know, I have taken a lot of people hunting, and I do love get watching people get that spark. Like, I took my niece and I've taken some friends, and I really like it. I've been kind of had a bad experience with one of the people I was mentoring, but that's water under the bridge and whatever. But uh, I've kind of chosen my path because I got, I mean, not that I'm like this huge conglomerate hunting company and I'm like a huge name or anything, but when you're somewhat successful, and so people always want you to take them with you all the time. So I have like a lot of people who want me to take them hunting, which I'm all for. Like, I'll help you, I'll talk to you about hunting, I'll show you hunting, you know. And the hard part to me is I don't want to take you to my spot because I don't know if you're gonna, come back the next year, and then you're going to bring your friends and they're going to bring their friends. So I've kind of chosen my mentoring is basically like, I'll help you with advice, I'll guide you in directions. I sponsor, like Crazy Elk's thing is 10% of everything that I make goes to hunting foundations. We donate that to charities. Right now, the one is Youth Outdoors Unlimited, because I kind of got a soft spot for kids, especially for kids who do not choose the life that they're in. Being disabled and handicapped, and potentially not going to live to see their adulthood, stuff like that. So that's the foundation I'm helping right now. My original plan was once a year I was going to take all the proceeds and do a different foundation, but this year I'm doing my second year with you, and then next year I'll probably you know branch out and do something else. But
Man,
yeah,
that's so cool. That is awesome. Truly, truly honorable. And it speaks highly of your character, Ross.
oh, thanks.
I'm impressed. Very impressed.
Yeah, I helped 2 years ago. I helped with an elk hunt with a kid, and he was only like 3 months cancer free or something. And just when I first met him, he didn't have a smile on his face. He was just like this I don't know, fixed face, and it wasn't happy. But after 3 days of hunting, it was totally different.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he like the person, Cindy, who leads you. She sent me a picture that she took of us together, and the smile. I mean, I didn't see it at the time, but the smile on his face, I almost cried. I mean, it was something to see.
Yeah. Man,
Yeah.
that's so incredible. Ross, besides just all the cool things that you got going on with the Crazy Elk Company and just who you are and the fun stories that you got to share, you also told me before we started recording this podcast that you had a message for the hunting community. And it was something that I feel very drawn towards, and I just want to pass it over to you and let you go ahead and share that. And I'd love to hear it as well and add to it wherever I can.
So my uncle told me years ago that hunters and outdoorsmen were in for a fight. I want to say I was like 17 or 18 when he told me that. And I was like, what are you talking about? He said hunting's under fire. And I just, as a kid, I couldn't see it and I didn't believe it. Well, it wasn't even, I don't think it was 19 or 20 when they put that stupid no bear baiting and no hound hunting for cougars on the ballot that God voted, right? And I'm like, oh, wow, there is an attack on hunting. And then as we see what's going on today with everything, um, the thing that bugs me the most is when you're with your friends. I know people like to jab each other and give each other a hard time, but like the thing with these internet forums, unless you know that guy on the other line personally, you don't know who you're turning off from hunting.
Hmm.
And you go into these forums and guys giving each other a hard time. You got the rifle hunters talking crap about the archery hunters, and the archery hunters talking crap about the rifle hunters. And you're right now, the big thing is to make fun of everybody who shoots a 6.5 Creedmoor. You know, I, I mean, a lot of that's you're just nudging people for fun, but you don't know who's what. There could be a kid who's not even commenting or saying anything. He's watching all these people argue about hunting and saying negative things about hunting that he could be like, I don't want to be any part of this, you
Totally.
know? And I just feel the other side to hunting is united. They have a common goal. They're not divided. Where I think right now, we're at a point where the gravel meets the road, and we all need to start standing up, even if we don't, you know, care how the other person hunts or whatever. I don't care if a guy's a road hunter. If he wants to hunt the road, that's up to him. That's more for me. You know what I mean?
Heck yeah.
Uh, if there's a guy who just wants to sit in one spot all day long and not walk around, you know, at least he's out there. He's doing what he wants to do. Um, and like privately with my friends, I would make fun of my friend. Oh yeah, I saw you drank too much, so you just sat in that spot all night and didn't move from that stump. I think I even saw you lean over it a couple times, stuff like that. But as as a whole, um, I just I just think we aren't united, and I wish we could put our different. We have the guys who, like I was reading on a forum just the other day, where this guy was bashing backcountries and hunters and anglers for not supporting gun rights. Well, back hunt backcountry hunters and anglers isn't about gun rights. They're about public land and public access. NRA is about gun rights. You don't see them going over and fighting for the public land access and all that stuff. So every organization has their own thing. If they were all doing the same thing, there wouldn't be a need for all these organizations, right?
I do want to just jump in there real quick and say what I've heard in regards to my take on it. Like, it's not so much that backcountry hunters and anglers doesn't stand for Second Amendment, is that they take money and donations from anti-Second Amendment organizations. And so that is therefore, it's not so that you're right, they stand for public lands, public access. That was just one of the things that I've heard
Oh, I
specifically about that. And so just to clarify that. And I do want to say this is that any of these organizations are not always perfect, just like hunting is
right,
not always perfect. And
right,
and at the end of the day, you have to identify what it is you want. I also am a firm believer, and you also have to be able to articulate and advocate for hunting and for the things you love. Because the minute that you are like, man, I don't have the courage to speak, is the minute that there's no one left to speak.
right,
And so I love your call to action that you're saying it's time for us to unite. I 100% agree. And I actually have a topic that I'm going to be doing on a podcast here about trophy hunting, because so often, and I mean, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole of what this podcast is going to be all about. I Trophy hunting, the term, you
right,
get a trophy when you play a game. And when
yeah,
we call our animals game, wild game, you get a trophy at the end of it. So it doesn't matter how big or small the trophy is, it's a trophy if you're going to play a game. And
right,
in games there's rules, and you have to follow rules to play the game to then get the trophy. And so
right,
there's this whole concept, but I don't think hunters are diving down and inwardly reflecting about what it is that they stand for and what it is that they truly believe in, and then having the intellect or the self-reflection or time to reflect, to be able to identify what it is and why it is that they do it, so that they can share it and be ambassadors and advocates for hunting. I
right.
told I totally agree
Yeah,
with you on that.
and like I said, when you're just some guys in a room and giving each other a hard time, that's one thing. But I just think, like on these public forums and stuff, you always have the internet police. Oh, you took that picture. You don't have the orange vest. You know what? Leave that to the wardens to decide.
Yeah.
You know, uh, I just want everybody. I don't care how you hunt. I mean, I archery hunt. I muzzleloader hunt. I bird hunt. I rifle hunt. I do the whole thing. And I appreciate and understand every aspect. It's all different. Um, but like I said, you have the guys that make fun of the guys who want to shoot an elk from 3/4 of a mile away, or a mile away. And, you know, that's their hunt. Let them be, let them do their thing. If they're out there hunting and they're doing it positively and they're doing it legally, who cares?
Yep. I actually have an article that is in the works that my buddy who shoots and competes at long range shooting is writing his article for Washington Backcountry's website about um, long distance hunting. But it's not long distance hunting; it's an effective range of hunting,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
and that is the whole idea: is of making sure that you identify the words of
Right.
what it is versus what it isn't, because we could say, well, I don't even want to get into some examples that I had rolling through my mind right there, but the whole point is you're right, it's your hunt, it's not their hunt. You hunt your hunt for
Right.
yourself. Everyone else can shove it. It doesn't matter if they're a hunter or not. The minute that they choose to nitpick at you is the minute that they're no longer a kind person, right? Because we
Right.
should be in the business, and I do mean should, because I truly believe this, that we need to be in the business of building people up, not tearing them down. And it's very interesting that you talk about like the whole concept of shooting a 6.5 Creedmoor, because I've only been hunting 7 years and I shoot a 6.5 Creedmoor, and I've taken a lot of crap about it. And at the end of the day, I didn't know what caliber was anything one over the other. My first hunting rifle was an AR-10 platform, a 308, because it was a large enough caliber to
Right.
go out into the woods, and so I was carrying an AR-10 roaming around the woods, and it was awesome, you know. And yet
Right.
a lot of people looked at me and they're like, "That's not a hunting rifle," and be like, "Yes, it is. It is a rifle. Period. It's legal caliber. Just because it doesn't look like
Right.
yours, talk like yours, act like yours,
Right.
doesn't mean it's not one of yours." And so yes, you're right. Instead of identifying the differences in humanity, the differences in what separates us, it's time to unite us around common bond and a common love, which is hunting lasting for generations to come. And if that's the case, then it's time for us to
And
join hands and arms.
and if you're not a outspoken person, and I mean, in your circles advocate for hunting, but put your money where your mouth is. Let's start supporting these groups that, like the Sportsman's Alliance, that are sitting basically on the Capitol steps listening to everything that's going on so they can fight for our rights. you know we need to support all these guys. If you support 4 or 5 groups, you're spending what, $150. Big deal.
Yeah.
you
I
know
I
that's
had
that's nothing.
Yeah, been a repeat guest on the show is Brian Lynn, the vice president of marketing and adver- advertising, marketing, and something
Yeah.
of Sportsman's Alliance. Anyways, Brian Lynn, awesome dude. He talks about on the last podcast I recorded with them about breaking it down based off of what you love and what you truly believe in. He says, number one, I believe everyone should be a member of a Second Amendment group, whether it's NRA or the Second Amendment Foundation, which is based out of Bellevue, Washington. Wonderful, wonderful organization that's fighting for us. Number two, he says Critter Club, which is like Rocky Mountain Elk, Ducks Unlimited,
Yeah.
Wild Sheep.
Right.
And then he said Sportsman's Alliance. And I actually would disagree, and I'd say I'd flip those, because without the advocacy for hunting in general, the critter clubs are
Right.
really cool to look at, but at the end of the day, we want to interact with them and not just be observers. And
Right.
and so yes, Sportsman's Alliance is one that Soulful Hunter 100% supports and gets behind, and because we believe in what they stand for and how they do it.
Right.
So I love that. And by the way, I've also I'm so close to founding this new organization, which you mentioned earlier just a couple minutes ago. It's the NRHAA. So it's the
Okay.
National Road Hunters Association of America.
I know some people that could join that club.
Yeah, I hear it is just going to be the biggest party in town. It's going to be a great time, and
Oh, awesome.
yeah,
Yeah, I could recommend a couple people to join that club.
that's funny. There's been many a times where I'm hiking in, and I'm like, man, Sometimes it'd be nice to sit in a warm truck and just cruise down the road and listen to
Right.
some country music and
Yeah. So one of these spikes that are here behind me, like there's a guy, he was a guy I mentored, and he ended up hunting with us for quite a while. But I think where the where the back started getting broken was we were hunting a canyon. He was on one side of the canyon, I was on the other, and I could see a herd of elk below him, and I could see that there was a spike. And I basically let him know, hey, about a mile and a half down the ridge, and then drop off in the canyon, there's a herd of elk down there. He's like, how far? And I said, about a mile and a half. And he's like, no, I'm good. I'll just sit here. I'm like, really? So I went down from my side all the way to the bottom. That for some weird, freakish reason, because they were on the other side of the canyon, they ended up spooking and coming right up to my side. And I ended up shooting that spike at the bottom of the canyon, like 20 yards. And we have a rule in our camp: if you want meat, you need to come help. So he was down there in that hole helping carry out meat. And so I looked at him and I said, you're down here now, aren't you? This could have been your elk, but it's my elk, you know. So I would nominate him to the road hunting club in a heartbeat.
I love it. I love it. Hey Ross, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for partnering with us on this podcast. Listeners, if you have not by now checked out the tag wallet that Ross from the Crazyelk Company has put out, it is time that you do, because if you have not been following him on Instagram and seeing how these tags have been used on the different turkeys and then using it in wild game or the big game this coming fall, you're missing out. It is a great thing to add to your kill kit and support a local state of Washington made in America company, which is something that we are all about here. So Ross, I see you want to add something right there.
Yeah, and right now, well, I'm going to be pushing it all summer long, but I just announced it today on the Instagram. If you go on my Instagram, which is the Crazyelk Company, uh, we're having basically, if you own a tag wallet and by December 15th, you send a picture in of your kill with your tag wallet, you will be in for a drawing to win a bow by Bear Archery.
Awesome.
So if you don't have a tag wallet, it's $12. Go buy one. You have a chance to win a $500 bow from Bear.
Yeah, and it might be even cheaper than $12 if you use the code Soulful with a capital S. Bam, you save 20%. But yes, totally. Go support a local company. Enter to have a chance to win a brand new Bear bow, which is super awesome. And just another great thing, Ross, that you are doing to just give back and bless people. I think, honestly, out of all the things that people could spend $12 on, your tag wall is probably one of the best bang for your buck things to put in your hunting pack.
Yeah, and keep your eye open, because we hopefully have some more stuff coming here soon. But the whole COVID has put a hindrance on the timeline of all that coming out.
Well,
but, go get a tag wallet.
I love it. Everybody, go follow the Crazyelk Company on Instagram. Go check out their website at crazyelkcompany.com. Also, the Crazyelk Company YouTube channel. Go check it out. Go watch Ross explain everything that he carries in his pack as he goes out and dominates the mountain. Be blessed, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of The Soulful Hunter. I'm your host, Johnny Mack. As always, freedom on and stay soulful. If you enjoyed today's podcast, I'd love it if you could go ahead and give this a rating as well as subscribe. Also, you can check us out on Instagram under the Soulful Hunter Podcast. Make sure to tag us in pictures and posts and use the hashtag Soulful Hunter. To find out more about the Soulful Hunter Podcast, go to soulfulhunter.com and be sure to follow the podcast, as we are going to be bringing you a lot of great information, insight, and changing lives through primal adventure. I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. Stay tuned and stay soulful.